The story opens in the quiet, unassuming town of Millfield, where Clara Bennett lives a life so ordinary it borders on mundane. She works as a librarian, her days marked by the rhythmic shelving of books and polite exchanges with patrons. Her husband, David, is a high school teacher, steady, kind, and utterly devoted to her. They share a modest home with a well-tended garden, the kind of place where neighbors wave hello but never pry too deeply. Yet, beneath Clara's calm exterior, there's something unsettling, an almost imperceptible tension. She startles too easily at sudden noises. Her gaze lingers a second too long on unfamiliar faces in the grocery store. When a car slows near their house, her fingers tighten around the curtains before she forces herself to step away. David notices, but he chalks it up to nerves. After all, nothing bad ever happens in Millfield. Then, one evening, the unthinkable occurs. Clara leaves just before sunset to pick up groceries, a mundane errand, one she's done 100 times before. She kisses David goodbye, promising to grab his favorite coffee beans. The security cameras at the store capture her entering, basket in hand, pausing in the dairy aisle. But she never checks out. By midnight, David is frantic. The police are called, and Detective Reynolds, a weary but sharp investigator, takes the case. There's no sign of a struggle in the parking lot. Clara's car remains untouched, her purse still inside. It's as if she simply walked out of the store and into thin air. Days turn into weeks. The town organizes search parties. David, hollow-eyed, appears on local news, pleading for information. But there are no leads, no ransom demands, no suspicious sightings, just silence. Then, 6 months later, a trucker spots a woman stumbling along the side of the highway 50 miles away. She's disheveled, her clothes worn, her expression dazed. When the police arrive, they confirm it's Clara, alive, but changed. She remembers nothing, no faces, no locations, no explanation for where she's been. Medical exams reveal no signs of assault or prolonged captivity, just exhaustion, dehydration, and a lingering terror she can't articulate. David is overjoyed to have her back, but something is off. Clara flinches at the sound of the doorbell. She stares at her reflection, as if she doesn't recognize herself. And sometimes, when she thinks no one is watching, she writes something in a notebook before quickly tearing out the page. The first disappearance might be over, but the mystery has only just begun. The story begins in the drowsy, golden hour glow of Millfield, a town where the most exciting headline in years was the bakery running out of sourdough. Clara Bennett fits perfectly into this quiet rhythm. She's the kind of woman people describe as pleasant, but struggle to recall in detail an hour after meeting her. Her life is a study in careful monotony. Tuesday night pasta dinners with her husband David, Thursday book club with the neighborhood women, Sunday mornings spent pruning roses in the garden. It's all so painfully normal, but there are cracks in the facade. Detective Reynolds will later note in his incident report how the cashier at Greenway Grocery mentioned Clara always paid in exact change, like she didn't want us touching her hands. The barista at the corner cafe will recall she never used her real name when ordering. And David, rubbing his wedding band raw during the investigation, will suddenly remember the way she'd freeze when certain songs played on the radio, her breath going shallow as if the melody carried a ghost. The day she vanishes starts like any other. The air in the Bennett household is different now, thick with the weight of things unsaid. Clara is home, but she is not the same. She moves through the rooms like a ghost retracing its steps, her fingers brushing against familiar objects, a coffee mug, the spine of a book, David's coat hanging by the door, as if confirming their reality. The doctors called it dissociative amnesia, a common trauma response. But David notices the way her eyes dart to the windows at dusk, how she counts the locks on the doors twice before bed. And then there are the notebooks. At first, David thinks it's part of her therapy, a way to piece together the missing months. He finds them tucked beneath the mattress in the back of the linen closet, once buried in the garden soil like a secret waiting to sprout. The pages are filled with frantic scribbles, addresses she's never visited, newspaper clippings about missing women from towns they've never heard of, and most chillingly, a single name written over and over in margins: Lydia. He doesn't ask. Not yet. But the questions coil between them, tightening with every passing day. It happens on a Tuesday, because of course it does. Tuesdays were always grocery days. David comes home to an empty house. Clara's phone sits charging on the kitchen counter, wiped clean of calls, messages, even the photos. Her wedding ring rests beside it, a perfect circle of gold on the granite. This time, there's no search party, no tearful press conferences. Detective Reynolds flips through the notebooks with a grimace. She was planning this, he mutters. But David knows better. He's seen the way Clara's hands shook when she thought no one was looking, the way she'd wake, gasping from dreams she refused to describe. This wasn't a woman running to something. This was a woman running from it. The cabin in the photograph isn't much to look at, just a weathered wooden box nestled in the pines. But the moment David steps inside, the pieces start to click. The walls are papered with news articles, maps, and surveillance photos, some of Clara, some of strangers. A corkboard holds a tangled web of red string connecting locations, dates, and a single recurring phrase, Project LYDIA. And then there's the lockbox. Inside, Reynolds finds a birth certificate for Lydia Voss, a driver's license with Clara's face, but another woman's name, and a faded Polaroid of two girls, one unmistakably Clara, the other a carbon copy in a yellow sundress. Twins. The truth hits David like a punch to the gut. The woman who came back wasn't Clara at all, and the real Clara? She's still out there. The house on Willow Lane no longer feels like a home. It has become a museum of ordinary things that now carry the weight of the unspeakable. A coffee cup left half full, a lipstick smudge on a bathroom mirror, the indentation of a body on a bed that hasn't been slept in for days. David moves through these rooms like a man walking through a dream. The doctors said Clara would need time. The therapist said recovery wasn't linear. But no one prepared him for this, for the way his wife now flinches when he reaches for her hand, or how she sometimes stares at their wedding photo with the blank expression of someone studying a stranger's life. The notebooks. He finds the first one by accident. It's tucked beneath the loose floorboard near Clara's side of the bed, the one that creaked every winter. The pages are filled with a handwriting that is both hers and not hers. The curves of the letters are too sharp, the pressure of the pen too desperate, and the words themselves. They're watching through the mirrors. The gray car is back. David doesn't see it. Lydia knows where I hid the key. David tells himself it's just the trauma talking, until he finds the second notebook, and the third. Each one is more unsettling than the last. Maps with routes traced in red ink. Obituaries of women who look eerily like Clara. A list of dates going back 20 years. Her birthdays, but also another set, always 2 days earlier. And then there are the drawings. Crude sketches of a cabin in the woods. A woman's face, half finished, eyes wide with fear. And on the very last page of the most recent notebook, a single sentence that stops his heart. I have to disappear again before they realize I remember. It happens on a night thick with summer rain. David wakes to the sound of the back door clicking shut. By the time he reaches the kitchen, all that's left of Clara is the scent of her shampoo and a single key on the table, one that doesn't fit any lock in their house. This time, there are no cameras to check, no witnesses, just the empty space where his wife used to be and the growing certainty that the woman who came back wasn't the one who left. Detective Reynolds arrives at dawn, his expression grim as he surveys the scene. "You said she was getting better," he says, flipping through the notebooks David hands him. David can only stare at the wall where their wedding photo hangs slightly crooked. "I thought she was." The cabin in the pines. The key fits a rusted lockbox buried beneath the floorboards of a decaying hunting cabin 30 miles north of Millfield. Inside, Reynolds finds a birth certificate for Lydia Marie Voss, born 2 days before Clara Bennett, a newspaper clipping about an unsolved double homicide from 1998, 2 foster parents found shot in their beds, and a photograph of 2 little girls in matching yellow dresses, their arms around each other, their smiles identical, but for the faint scar above one girl's eyebrow. Clara's scar. As rain drums against the cabin roof, David picks up the final piece of evidence, a letter dated the day before Clara's first disappearance. "If you're reading this, they've found us. Don't trust anyone, not even me." It's signed in shaky ink. Lydia. The rain hasn't stopped for 3 days when David finds the address scribbled inside the lockbox, a derelict motel on the edge of the county, the kind of place where people pay in cash and don't ask names. The neon sign flickers VAC NCY as he steps over shattered glass in the parking lot, his phone buzzing with Detective Reynolds' unanswered calls. Room 17 smells of mildew and gun oil. The door is already ajar. Inside, the walls are papered with the same newspaper clippings from the cabin, but now there are strings connecting them, red yarn stretching from headlines about missing women to a map of the state, each pinprick a town where a woman vanished, always 2 days after her birthday. And in the center of it all, a single photograph, a young Clara and Lydia, their faces circled in black marker, the word prototypes scrawled beneath. Then, movement in the shadows. A woman steps into the dim light, her hair dyed black, her posture rigid. For a heartbeat, David thinks it's Clara. Then he sees the scar above her eyebrow. Lydia. She presses a gun into his palm before he can speak. "They're coming," she says, her voice raw, "and you're the only one she'll trust." The revelation. What spills out in the next hour rewrites everything. The experiment. Clara and Lydia weren't just twins, they were part of a covert behavioral study raised in separate foster homes to test nature versus nurture. The escape. At 18, they found each other and ran, but the researchers never stopped hunting. The switch. The first disappearance was Clara being recaptured. The woman who came back was Lydia, playing her sister's role to draw out their pursuers. Lydia's hands shake as she shows David the final clue, a voicemail from Clara time-stamped yesterday. "The facility's in the old water treatment plant. They're starting over with new subjects. I have to stop." The recording cuts off. The facility. The abandoned plant hums with generators that shouldn't be running. Inside, the walls are lined with soundproof cells, each holding a woman in varying states of distress. At the end of the hall, strapped to a chair, Clara jerks against her restraints as a man in a lab coat adjusts an IV drip. Subject C-17 shows renewed resistance. He murmurs to a recorder, "Recommend neural reset." David doesn't hesitate. The gunshot echoes like thunder. The choice. In the chaos of alarms and fleeing guards, Clara grips Lydia's wrist. "You shouldn't have come back," she sobs. But Lydia just smiles, that same uneven grin from the childhood photo, and presses a key into her sister's palm. "Some secrets are worth keeping," she whispers. Then she turns and walks straight into the arriving police lights, her hands raised high, her chin lifted. Epilogue. The Woman Who Remembers. The news calls Lydia a hero. The police close 12 missing persons cases. David sits by Clara's hospital bed, watching her trace their wedding date over and over in a fresh notebook. She pauses at the sound of a car idling outside. Her fingers tighten around the pen. And in the hallway mirror, just for a second, her reflection lingers a heartbeat after she turns away. The storm that batters Millfield the night David breaks into the abandoned Willowbrook Psychiatric Hospital feels like the sky itself is weeping. Flashlight beams cut through the rotting hallways, illuminating peeling wallpaper that curls like dead skin. The air smells of damp earth and something sharper, antiseptic, lingering after all these years. Detective Reynolds' voice crackles through David's earpiece. "You shouldn't be doing this alone." But David knows the truth. No one else can see what he's begun to understand. The case files spread across his kitchen table revealed the terrible pattern. 12 women vanished from Millfield since 1987, all brunettes, all between 5 feet 4 inches and 5 feet 6 inches, all reported by their families as changed before disappearing, and all admitted to Willowbrook at some point. The basement tapes. The hospital records room is flooded ankle deep, the water black with decades of ink bleeding from destroyed files. But the real horror waits in the basement, a steel door marked Dr. Voss, Project Lumen. Inside, David finds a 1980s video set up, the monitor still glowing with ghostly static. The tape plays without prompting. A younger Dr. Voss smiles at the camera. Subject 7 demonstrates remarkable memory transfer capabilities. With continued neural synchronization, we believe entire personality constructs can be transplanted. The camera pans to show 2 girls, no older than 8, strapped to matching chairs, their skulls wired together. Clara and Lydia, not sisters, test subjects, the procedure room. Deeper in the hospital, David finds the machinery still intact. The chairs, the scalpels, the journals detailing successful personality overwrites. The most recent entry makes his blood freeze. C17, Clara Construct has developed dangerous recall, initiating full memory purge, and L12, Lydia Construct reinstatement. Note, this will be the 7th reset. The date? 2 days before Clara's first disappearance, the woman in the mirror. David's flashlight fails as he hears movement behind him. The glow of a cigarette flares in the dark, illuminating Detective Reynolds' face. "You were never supposed to find this," Reynolds sighs, clicking off his earpiece. "She was doing so well this time." In the terrible silence that follows, David understands. The police were never investigating Clara's disappearances. They were managing them. The truth about Clara. The final tape shows it all. Not a kidnapping, not a twin sister, a procedure. Clara on the table screaming as the machine whirs to life, Reynolds holding her down, Dr. Voss adjusting dials, and the last whispered words before the screen goes black. Initiate Lydia protocol. Epilogue. The 8th reset. When the EMTs find David wandering Highway 41 at dawn, he's clutching a single photograph, the one from the cabin, now torn down the middle. The scarred girl's half is missing. At the station, Reynolds pours him coffee. "You've been through a lot, David. Maybe you should consider a fresh start." The syringe in his pocket glints under the fluorescent lights. Across town, Clara, or the woman who was Clara, stands before her bathroom mirror. As she touches the reflection, her whisper is almost too quiet to hear. Which one am I this time? The medicine cabinet opens to reveal 12 prescription bottles, all empty, all different names, all her face on the labels. The disappearances were never abductions. They were resets. Lydia wasn't a sister, but one of many implanted personalities. The entire town is complicit in maintaining the experiment. David's discovery may have doomed him to become the next subject. The real horror isn't that Clara vanished twice. It's that she never truly came back either time. The woman David loves is just the current iteration in a series of carefully constructed personalities, each disappearance marking another erasure. The final shot holds on the bathroom mirror as cracks suddenly spiderweb across its surface from the inside. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.